Okay, so we're back. We're going to do another one of our top 10 lists. But much like our director's list, we're going to add some commentary. Some lists don't need too much explanation, but with this particular list, I feel there's some explanation needed. As unlike other people, I don't think that there is a lot of depth in a lot of the subgenres of different genres, such as horror and sci-fi. You might have seen in my American Werewolf in London review my thoughts on the shallow depth of the werewolf subgenre. Not as shallow as that is the vampire subgenre. We're going to talk about the 10 best vampire films. The list might be controversial to some. It does not contain a lot of the older vampire films, as I'm not too fussed on many of the renditions of Dracula, right up through from the early ages of cinema, right up through to the 70s. What I did here was I sat down and with no reference material, I wrote out my top 10, and then I consulted a bunch of other lists just to see if there's any films I'd forgotten. And there wasn't any I'd forgotten, but I was surprised to see that a lot of the films on my list did appear on many other lists from some top sites. But there was those older films which many believe to be classics, which I don't think really have good impact. The only film of note that did pop up on many of the lists that I have not seen is Thirst. The trailer and what I read didn't really excite me too much, but I will eventually check out Thirst. So Thirst aside, here is my top 10 vampire films. Number 10 is Let the Right One In. Number 11, of course, would be the excellent remake Let Me In. They're pretty much on an even keel, like some parts of one and some parts of the other, but the original will have to win out for being the original and not a copy. Let the Right One In is an interesting take on the vampire film, and the only part of it I really didn't like was the acting or the way the main boy was written. He came across not too sympathetic. He came off as a bit weirder than I think he was supposed to be for the story. I think that might have just been the actor that was chosen. I much prefer the actor and the way he was used in the remake. But that said, it's an excellent little chiller, and it was neck and neck with the remake, but we're going to go with Let the Right One In for number 10. That brings us to number 9. Innocent Blood. Kind of a strange hybrid comedy drama or a vampire film. A little slow in places. I can understand why it might not be everyone's cup of tea, from catching on late night TV not long after it came out, and was a pleasant surprise. I've always had a soft spot for Innocent Blood. Number 8 is From Dusk Till Dawn. I did not see this one on a lot of lists, fair enough, but I very much enjoyed seeing this in the cinema, and I just recently, this week in fact, I picked up the Canadian Steelbook. The Canadian transfer is the best transfer out there, much better than the US transfer, or the UK transfer I believe is the same as the US, but either way, the Canadian transfer is the one that gets has the best reputation and the best look from screen cap comparisons. And this Steelbook edition, unlike the regular edition, has all the special features from the DVD. It's a Tarantino written, Robert Rodriguez directed. Now, I don't care for Robert Rodriguez as a filmmaker. I think he's pretty poor, in fact. But with the material that Tarantino wrote, it's a film of two halves. The first half of the film feels very much like a Tarantino film, and it's quite exciting. The second half goes into, which is the vampire half, goes into a bit more of farce and silliness, but is very entertaining. So it is a good film, not a great film. But as I say, I don't think the vampire subgenre has a lot of depth, though I only have a handful of great films from the genre. Next up is number 7, and we have Blade. Blade is the comic book vampire who is half human, half vampire, who can walk in the daylight. They call him the Daywalker, and he battles vampires. Very entertaining film. The first 15 minutes of this are amazing. The end slows down a little bit, but then picks up a little bit later on. Stephen Dorff is a great villain in this. Blade 2 was an okay sequel, but not high enough to make this list, obviously. And Blade 3 is abominable. Which brings us to number 6, which is Byzantium, which is from director Neil Jordan. It's a nice companion piece to his film Interview with the Vampire, with modern day, kind of the reverse. It has more modern day setting and flashbacks to older times, whereas Interview with the Vampire was the other way around. Had just a minimal modern setting and a lot of flashbacks all the time. English film, set in England, Gemma Arterton, Saoirse Ronan, and I have a video on this Steelbook which I'll put down in the description. Number 5, it'll be no surprise that it is Interview with the Vampire. Excellent film. Anne Rice, her most famous novel, on her series of vampire novels, and initially she was against Tom Cruise's casting of Lestat. Once she saw the film, she fully endorsed him, as he did an amazing job in this. He's probably the highlight of the film. Brad Pitt is also good, Antonio Banderas, and a young Kirsten Dunst, who probably never got better than she did in this film. Number 4 is Bram Stoker's Dracula from Francis Ford Coppola. Could have been a masterpiece, but Keanu Reeves' casting in the role really dulled out quite a few of the scenes in the film. All the scenes he was in, his terrible delivery and voice, totally wrong for the film. I believe it was the studio's choice to bring in somebody of his ilk to bring in the female quotient of the audience. I don't think it was necessary, but such an amazing turn from Gary Oldman as Dracula, the best version of Dracula, in my opinion. Tom Waits is also excellent in this. Anthony Hopkins is a little over the top. Still, it's just a gorgeous looking film. Next we have number 3, which is The Lost Boys. Now, funnily enough, I didn't see this on a lot of lists, but this is a absolute classic. Wonderful blend of comedy and horror. Excellent casting, great effects, beautiful cinematography. This film has a lot going for it, and it's a fun ride with Kiefer Sutherland, Diane Weist, Corey Feldman, Jamie Gertz, Jason Patric. So many good actors in this film, including the other half of Keanu's Bill and Ted there in as one of the vampires, and an absolute classic, and probably still Joe Schumacher's best film. Number 2 is a film that came out, I believe, the same year or within the same 12 months. It's Near Dark. A wonderful sort of Southern Gothic, modern day set, almost like a Western vampire film, with Lance Henriksen doing some wonderful. One of the interesting things about this film is that it uses a lot of the cast from Aliens, as this was made not long after Aliens, with James Cameron's then wife, Catherine Bigelow, which I still think this is her best film. And I have the DVD here because the Blu-ray, even though it is a slight improvement on the DVD, it didn't really get the best reviews, and I'm hoping someone will put out a better one. And also the cover of the Blu-ray was terrible, and this has a beautiful cover. It's a really nice set. I would like to get a better looking transfer, and hopefully, hopefully a better Blu-ray does come out of this particular. Number 1 is Only Lovers Left Alive, a very recent vampire film. I do intend on getting the Blu-ray when I can pick it up cheap. I've been looking for it online and in stores quite frequently over the last few weeks. It is perhaps it will not maintain the number 1 film spot forever, but it will always, I think it will always be in the top 2 or 3. It's just very fresh in my mind. I've just watched it and I found it very invigorating viewing of this hypnotic film from Jim Jarmusch, starring Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton. And yeah, it's a very, very different hypnotic vampire film with some interesting takes on the genre. It's certainly not for everyone, but it is a powerful film. So that's my top 10 vampire films, and we'll catch you soon.